these key takeaways to Jason. So I guess in summary, yeah, it's all about preparation. Yeah, so make sure you're building sufficient time to do your training, and then building sufficient time to do the revision. Yeah, always start with getting a date in the diary for your exam and working backwards. Yeah, don't do your exam. No, sorry, don't do your training and then your revision, and then try and get a date 6 weeks out for your exam. Get that peg in the ground and then work back. Okay. Understanding over memory. Yeah, you'll struggle to remember everything. There's a lot of content. Use the syllabus. Yeah, look at the things you're going to get questions on. Use the sample papers. Get a real sense of where the questions are going to come. Yeah, and for those that you struggle, yeah, sometimes write them down. Yeah, a lot easier to remember than a slide on a course 3 weeks ago. Use those sample papers. Yeah, practice doing those sample papers. I mean, you can do one of the sample papers and then 3 days later do it again. Trust me, your brain will have forgotten all of those questions. You'll have done 40 questions and maybe another paper. Go back to the other one and do it again. Yeah, that practice is really important. And as I say, we avoid those common pitfalls that we've tried to highlight in the webinar. So you don't lose what I call silly marks. Yeah, don't get 25 out of 40 because one of the marks you just didn't read the question properly. Yeah, so avoid those pitfalls. And if you do that with good preparation, yeah, good practice, then you're in a good place to pass your ITIL 4 foundation exam. Okay, back to you, Jason, now, just to summarize, and I think we've got some time for Q&A as well.
Thank you very much. That was quite an informative presentation, Mr. Ian McDonald. So going forward, now that you've gotten an understanding about the exam and the best ways to approach it, I'd like to introduce our ITIL training products, which are on a steep discount as of currently. So for the ITIL 4 Foundation Certificate, it's currently at £555, 40% off, down from £925. We've got ITIL 4 Specialist, which is again 30% off, down from £995 to £695. ITIL 4 Strategist, Direct, Plan and Improve is again 30% off, down from £995 to £695. All of these will come with an exam voucher manual. You get the e-learning experience, mock exams and tutor support. It will not be mock tutoring, that I can guarantee you. Now, on top of this, you've got ITIL 4 practitioner courses, again 30% off, down from £565 to £395 each. And you can pick a specialization out of change enablement, continual improvement, deployment, incident management, information security management, and IT asset management. And all of these discounts will be on top of our next exclusive webinar offer. And this one is a flat 5% off, additional 5% off, of all ITIL courses on top of the existing discounts that I just covered. Please use the coupon code on the screen, which is webinar, and the offer is valid until the 25th of December. So you get anywhere between 30% to 40% off on the course of your choosing, plus another 5% off until the 25th of December. And now I think it's time for us to move on to the questions and answers. We've gotten a couple of questions from the pre-registration phase, and I'll be addressing them in combination with Mr. Ian. The first question goes as follows. What are the most common mistakes you see learners make when preparing for their certification exam? And following up that, what practical tips can you share to avoid said pitfalls?
Okay, should I say that one, Jason?
What are the most common mistakes you see learners make when preparing for the exam, and what tips can you give to make up for those mistakes?
Okay. Well, I'll answer that. Well, in essence, a lot of that we've covered as part of this this webinar. So I guess those questions were raised in advance of the actual material. So The biggest mistake, I think, in personal experience, is when to schedule the exam. Yeah. As I've said a few times, get a date in the diary, work your way back. Try not to leave the time between completing your formal education, which if you're doing e-learning or if you're in a classroom-based environment, try not to leave the time between the end of that formal study and the exam too long. 7 to 10 days is my sort of rule of thumb, my guide, to get that sweet spot between stuff you can remember from the study, sufficient time to build in that focused revision, and sort of you go into the exam then in the best possible sort of frame of mind. If you leave the exam too far from when you finish, so you push it out for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, it sounds great because you've got lots of time to prepare. Unfortunately, life gets in the way, work gets in the way. And then what you thought you had as plenty of time to do that detailed revision, do those sample papers, it's run away from you and people end up rescheduling. Okay. And that to me is one of the biggest mistakes that people make, because the more and more you keep pushing it out, that formal study time that you've had, what you covered in that starts to erode, that ability to remember things starts to erode. Okay. So that would be my number one tip, is don't leave the gap between the end of study and the exam too long. Work back from a date, plan out your revision time and go for it. Yeah. And then, of course, we covered lots of other hints and tips on things that, people get wrong. Don't read the question. Answer the question based on what they do back in the workplace, which might be okay, but it isn't what ITIL 4 prescribes. Okay. So I think this webinar is giving you lots of hints and tips around the sort of silly marks you might lose. Yeah. But the biggest, I think, mistake people make is pushing the exam too far out from the end of their formal study time. Okay, Jason?
Of course. Thank you very much for the answer. I think that covers the question. And we've got another one. It goes as, for someone in our audience who's starting their certification journey today, what would be your recommended study plan and a realistic timeline to go from beginner to exam ready?
Okay, well, again, I think we've sort of covered that. The study time is usually articulated within, if it's an e-learning offering, it usually says how many hours. I think we say in the webinar, sort of 8 to 12 hours for doing, if it's e-learning. If you're doing it as a classroom, then usually it's a 3-day course. So those things are usually pretty well sort of, documented. And you can understand how much time you need to allocate either for the course. If it's in the classroom, it's 3 days. If it's e-learning, you can fit those 8 to 12 hours within, however you want to do that. Some people might like to do it as one continuous block. Some people might want to do it over a number of days or a number of weeks. So I guess the flexibility of e-learning is do it, what's best for you. But again, it goes back to, then leaving a reasonable amount of time, 7 to 10 days from the point you think you finished the official study. Yeah. So when you walk away from the course, if it's in the classroom, 7 to 10 days from there, get a date in the diary for the exam, or once you've finished your e-learning, get a date in the diary 7 to 10 days ahead, and then work back from that to work out, the best approach. Yeah. So best approach is maybe start with a sample paper. Yeah. Start with a sample paper. Yeah. Let's see what I get right. Let's see what I get wrong. What are the things I'm getting wrong? What are the things I'm getting wrong? Because clearly I'm struggling. Maybe I need to do more focused revision on the areas I'm getting wrong, more than just revising the whole thing. Yeah. So look at the things that you're uncomfortable with. Look at the things that you intuitively know maybe you didn't quite get your head around when it was being presented to you. Yeah. But certainly use the sample papers for the things you get wrong to sort of signpost maybe areas of ITIL 4 that you therefore need to revise in a more focused way. Okay.
I think we've got some time for one last question. And this one's a bit of a broad one, but I think we can quickly wrap this up. It goes as, how has the certification and industry standards evolved in recent years? And what emerging trends or changes should professionals be aware as they pursue this qualification in 2025?
Okay, that's quite a broad question. Well, yeah, IT is changing all the time. ITIL 4, I think I mentioned, is the latest revision of ITIL best practice based on the sort of digital and sort of IT-enabled service world that we sort of recognise today. So, you know, biggest taxi company in the world, who doesn't own taxis? Uber. You know, the biggest fast food company in the world that doesn't make burgers or pizzas, Just Eat. So I think we understand the digital world either as consumers ourselves or as being part of the overall IT service delivery. So ITIL will lock down at that point in time the things that are relevant, yeah, in the industry in terms of those industry trends. So of course, you know, best practice is only best practice for a certain amount of time. So there are already things starting to happen. So things like customer experience, experience level agreements, the emergence now of AI, or more the sort of ChatGPT sort of aspects of AI. So there are a number of things that are happening. Well, those things will be captured and will be relevant in the next revision of ITIL. Okay, so you're not going to get a question about experience level agreements because they didn't exist at the time the sort of, if you like, the scope was finalized for ITIL 4. So I'm sure there will be a revision of ITIL 4. Maybe it's called ITIL 4.1 or ITIL 5, whatever. So there are lots of things that are happening. So I think AI is a great example. Experience level agreements at the moment are great examples, but are unlikely to figure in the ITIL 4 foundation. So the syllabus locks down what you're going to cover. The content, the publications, the training material locks down the questions you're going to get. Okay, so don't feel there are things happening today that you need to get really on top of, because you won't get specifically questions on those, because if they're not in the scope of ITIL 4, then you won't get questions on them. Okay, so I don't know if that helps or hinders, but lots of things changing, of course, but only focus on what's in the scope of ITIL 4. Anything else, you're not going to get a direct question on. Maybe in the next revision of ITIL, but not in ITIL 4. Yeah. Hope that answers, Jason.
Of course. Unfortunately, I think that's all the time we've got for questions.
Okay.
We've not got a lot of them, but I think with that, we'll be wrapping up the webinar. So if you've got any more information or you want to check out the coupon codes, please go visit the website. It'll contain all the information. The Aspirex website will contain all the information and more. And we also have links to a YouTube channel and a way to find out future webinars and information which might entice you in relation to ITIL. So thank you very much, Mr. Ian McDonald. Thank you. Thank you very much for everyone who joined. I'll see you later.
Yeah, and for those who celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas when it arrives. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.